Should small towns still have volunteer EMS? Imagine your house catches fire. You call 911. But instead of a siren wailing in the distance, there's silence. Minutes tick by. No ambulance, no fire truck. Just you, your family, and growing panic. This isn't fiction. This is the reality creeping into small towns across America. Why? Because the volunteer emergency services system, once the backbone of rural safety, is quietly crumbling. In America, not all emergency medical services are staffed by full-time paid professionals. In fact, in much of rural America, they never were. These towns depended on neighbors, ordinary citizens, who gave their time freely, showing up when someone needed CPR, rescue, or just help surviving until a hospital could be reached. But here's the thing. That system, once noble and reliable, is now failing. And it's not just because fewer people are signing up. It's because everything around them has changed. Back in 1984, there were nearly 900,000 volunteer firefighters in the US. By 2020, that number had fallen by over 220,000. And while you might think this is still a healthy number, remember, the US population grew by more than 100 million people in that time. Per person, we now have almost half as many volunteers. That's not just a drop, it's a dangerous void. This didn't happen overnight. According to experts like Andy Giernap, the decline started as far back as the 1960s and 70s. Small towns didn't notice at first. For decades, volunteers just showed up. It worked until it didn't. These volunteers were never meant to be a permanent fix. They were a patch. And that patch is now ripping apart. So what's going wrong? First, aging. The current volunteer force is getting old fast. Some of the same people who helped launch EMS services in the 1980s are still responding to calls today. Imagine a 70-year-old running into a burning house or performing chest compressions on a heart attack victim. It's not sustainable. In towns with populations under 2,500, 1 in 3 firefighters is now over 50 years old. In 1987, that number was just 1 in 6. Why aren't young people stepping in to fill the gap? Because volunteering today isn't what it used to be. In decades past, volunteer fire departments were like family clubs, a mix of social engagement and community pride. You could join with minimal training, do some good, and feel like a hero. Today, becoming an EMT requires 150 hours of training. Firefighters need 120 hours, and even basic first responders must complete at least 48 hours, and that's unpaid. Think about that. Most Americans already work full-time jobs, juggle family life, side hustles, rising costs, and more. How many people can afford to give up 3 weeks of their time, unpaid, to qualify for a volunteer role? The economic reality is harsh. With inflation, rent hikes, and wage stagnation, many families require dual incomes just to survive. There's no room left for unpaid heroism, but it gets worse. Even if someone wanted to volunteer, they might not be in town anymore. Between 2010 and 2020, 2/3 of all rural counties lost population. That's millions of people gone, especially the young ones. They left for cities, opportunities, Wi-Fi, college, and a life that didn't feel so isolated. The towns they left behind are now red on a demographic map, bleeding residents and bleeding support. And even the young people who stayed, they aren't joining organizations the way older generations once did. Churches, clubs, social groups, and yes, volunteer fire departments have seen massive declines. Why go hang out at a firehouse when you can FaceTime your friends from your couch, play online games, or scroll TikTok for hours? In 2023, the average young American spent over 6 hours a day alone. That's not just a stat, it's a shift in lifestyle. So what's being done? Some communities are trying recognition, highlighting volunteers in local papers, holding thank you events, and boosting their status. That's a start, but it's not enough. Others are going further, offering stipends, tax credits, free housing, even college tuition for those willing to train and serve. In parts of Pennsylvania and Maryland, volunteers get access to apartments rent-free, just for keeping emergency services running. But the truth is, even those band-aids are just that, temporary. The most sustainable solution: regionalization. Instead of every small town trying to fund its own fire truck, ambulance and crew, they team up. They pool their budgets, consolidate dispatch systems, and cover more ground with fewer but better resourced stations. It's not perfect, and yes, some towns lose their personal fire station, but it might be the only way to survive. And yet, many experts agree, even regionalization might not be enough. There's a reason we don't rely on volunteer doctors or volunteer nurses. We don't ask people to run public schools for free. But for decades, we've expected EMS workers, those who save lives, deliver babies on the side of highways, stop bleeding, revive addicts, and pull crash victims from twisted wrecks, to donate their time. What message does that send? Today, the estimated value of a volunteer EMT's time is over $34.79 per hour, but they're not getting paid. And that's the problem. Communities have gotten a free ride for 40 years, and now they're realizing it doesn't last forever. So here's the real question. Should small towns still have volunteer EMS? The emotional answer is yes. It's rooted in tradition, pride, community. But the practical answer? No, not without serious changes. Volunteering isn't broken because people don't care. It's broken because the system refuses to evolve. It's built on outdated expectations, crumbling demographics, and an economy that makes unpaid work a luxury very few can afford. To survive, we must transition. That means real funding, paid personnel, federal and state support, and a mindset shift that values emergency workers as professionals, not just heroes of convenience. And here's the kicker. If we don't fix it, people will die. That's not fear-mongering, it's math. Without enough responders, calls go unanswered. Fires burn unchecked. Heart attacks go untreated. And the silence that follows a 911 call might be more than symbolic. It might be fatal. So next time you see an ambulance zoom by or a fire truck roll through your neighborhood, remember, someone inside might be a volunteer, someone who trained for months, sacrificed sleep, skipped dinner with their family, just to be there, for free. But how long can we expect that? And when they're